In this video we are going to take a closer look at one of the more interesting elements of Deathwatch list building as far as I'm concerned, the relics. I don't know about you guys, but with so many interesting options available in 9th edition, I almost always end up maxing out on them, much to the dismay of my CP counter. Over the course of the video, we will go through all the Deathwatch specific relics, which ones are competitive and which ones are best to be left deep within the walls of the Watch Fortress.
Welcome to SwissHammer, your channel for modeling in Warhammer 40k. My name is Tammer and I will be guiding you through this video.
Out of all the relics available to the Deathwatch, the following are what I would consider to be the top 3. The Dominus Aegis, the Beacon and Chalice and the Tome of Ectoclades. What these have in common is that they can often be found in competitive lists and they add a lot to what makes Deathwatch good at the moment. Starting with the Dominus Aegis, this replaces a storm, relic or combat shield. The bearer gets to keep the +1 to armor saving throws, but then also gains the following aura ability. While a friendly Deathwatch core or character unit is within 6 inches of the bearer, models in that unit have a 5+ invulnerable save. So basically a 5+ invul bubble, which we currently see most commonly applied to dreadnoughts or primary skill teams, with the latter of course lacking access to storm shields when compared to their firstborn counterparts in the Proteus kill team. Because of this relic requiring the model to have one of the listed shields, it is most commonly found on captains, simply because the Watchmaster cannot take it. As an alternative, it can also be put on a company champion or even the Indomitus lieutenant. Another advantage of the captain is that they keep their 4+ invul save, because they already have the Iron Halo anyway, removing the invul save redundancy that captains with storm shields now face in 9th edition. A captain on bike works particularly well because of his larger base, but we also see slash captains with jump pack or the Indomitus captain being used in competitive lists. One final note on the Indomitus captain. Keep in mind that the relic replaces his relic shield, which means he will lose access to the 4+ against mortal wounds. As previously mentioned, he does keep the 4+ invul save because of his Iron Halo, and the Dominus Aegis relic still raises his armor save by 1, but the 4+ against mortal wounds is lost. Regardless of which character you bring this relic along, it is incredibly powerful and you should prioritize keeping the bearer alive at all cost. Moving on to the second relic, the Beacon and Chalice. Once per battle, if the bearer did not arrive as reinforcements this turn, it can activate the Beacon and Chalice. If it does, in the reinforcement step of your movement phase, you can select one friendly Deathwatch infantry or biker unit that is either on the battlefield and did not arrive as reinforcements this turn, is in a teleportarium chamber or is in strategic reserves. Remove that unit and set it up as reinforcements wholly within 6 inches of the bearer and more than 9 inches away from any enemy models. There are both offensive as well as defensive applications of this relic. First and perhaps most obvious, it can be used offensively to get a slow kill team, like for instance the Indomitor, in place. The important part here is that neither the bearer nor the target can have arrived as reinforcements in the same turn. This results in the relic usually being used on a fast HQ, like a Primaris Chaplain on bike for example, or a Phobos HQ like the Librarian, that can be deployed through concealed positions. If the target is starting on the board as well, then it's even possible to do a first turn beacon pull like this. A more defensive application is to pull a unit out of combat that is in danger of getting destroyed. Combined with a chief apothecary, this can go a long way. Moving on to the third relic, the Tome of Ectoclades, which is another once per battle usage. Activated in your command phase, select one datasheet used by a unit from your opponent's army. Until the start of your next command phase, the bearer has the following aura ability. While a friendly Deathwatch core unit is within 6 inches of the bearer, each time a model in that unit makes an attack against a unit belonging to the selected datasheet, you can reroll the wound roll. This is potentially very powerful if your opponent is bringing a lot of the same datasheet, but it is also useful against bringing down a single powerful unit, such as a Lord of War for example. With what I consider the top 3 out of the way, there are 2 more relics that we see in competitive lists. The first is the Worken Pattern Auspicator, and perhaps one or the other might wonder how that didn't make it into my top 3. Let's say it was a close one, but I also think that it is far more dependent on the meta compared to the others. Its bearer has the following aura ability. While a friendly Deathwatch core unit is within 6 inches of the bearer, each time a model in that unit makes a ranged attack against a unit that can fly, add 1 to that attack's hit roll. Basically, this relic is fantastic for as long as units with fly are common in the meta, and the Drukhari menace has certainly helped a lot in boosting this relic to competitive levels. Certainly powerful, but double check your local meta before blind picking this one. Moving on to the second and perhaps less obvious one, the Bane Bolts of Erixia. Basically, a bolt weapon can make a single strength 6, AP -2 and damage 3 attack. Back when the supplement came out, I overlooked this relic and didn't really see it used anywhere either, until recently at the Rage 40k GT, where Shoal Wilson used this relic in combination with the sanction of the Black Vault stratagem to put the Bane Bolts of Erixia on a Sergeant's Instigator Bolt Carbine. The main advantage here is that the Sergeant wants that gun for its special ability, but its damage output is rather underwhelming. Combined with the relic, you get a decent gun as well as the unlocked special ability. While the application of the relic is pretty niche, I listed it as competitive simply because we are seeing Eliminator squads popping up in competitive Deathwatch lists since their recent points decrease, and I think this is the way to maximize a single squad of them. With the competitive picks out of the way, let's look at the remaining alternatives. First, we have the Artificer Bolt Cache. Just like with the previously mentioned Bane Bolts, this one can also be applied to a Sergeant in combination with the stratagem and basically unlocks special issue ammunition on bolt weapons. Since the release of the supplement, we have seen this one being mentioned here and there, for instance in combination with bolter Inceptors or Centurions, but I have not seen it establish itself in tournament play. I suppose the impact is just not big enough, or there are too many good alternatives. Personally, I have experimented with the mentioned bolter Inceptors, but to be frank, it would be the first thing to drop to free up CP. I recommend giving it a shot, literally, and decide for yourself. Next to the Bane Bolts and the Artificer Bolt Cache, there are a few more relics that can also be applied to a Sergeant through the stratagem, and we might see them once in a while, but I don't think that they make a regular appearance thanks to the many great alternatives. Artificer Armor adds a 2+ armor save and a 5+ invul. This can be interesting to up the survivability of a librarian, for example. Another one is the Adamantine Mantle, which adds a 5+ feel no pain to the bearer. We then also have Digital Weapons, which allows the bearer to make an extra attack with the close combat weapon profile. If it hits, the target suffers 1 mortal wound and the attack sequence ends. I don't think any of these are commonly used due to many better alternatives. Another niche pick is the Eye of Abiding. Each time the bearer makes an attack, you can ignore any and all hit roll, wound roll, ballistic skill and weapon skill modifiers for that attack. Each time the bearer makes an attack, on an unmodified wound roll of a 6, invul saves cannot be made against that attack. One potential application for this is in combination with a Thunderhammer or Power Fist, allowing you to ignore the hit penalty. For instance, a Smash Captain will keep hitting on a 2+ with this. What I think works against the usage of this relic is mainly the alternatives. As we previously covered, the Dominus Aegis tends to be the relic of choice on a captain. Or if you wanted access to anti-invul saves, a popular variant is the Slash Captain with the Xenophase Blade. Speaking of the Xenophase Blade, we sometimes see this one being used in combination with the pretty general relic called Mastercrafted Weapon, which adds +1 to the damage characteristic of that weapon, but it cannot be applied to weapons that are already relics or mastercrafted. This one also works with the previously mentioned stratagem. Another way to improve a power sword, mastercrafted power sword, or Xenophase Blade is the Thief of Secrets relic. The weapon gains the following profile: Strength +1, AP -4, Damage 1. It also gains the following abilities. Each time an attack is made with this weapon, invulnerable saving throws cannot be made against that attack. Each time an attack made with this weapon is allocated to a Tyrannid, Eldari, Orc, Necron or Tau Empire model, that attack has a damage characteristic of 2. Once more, we are getting some anti-Xenos fluff, which is also the likely reason we are not seeing this in play much. Well, I'm not a fan of our anti-Xenos stratagems either, at least these can be used situationally, but why would I include a relic in my list and then risk not playing against the Xenos faction? Moving on to the even less commonly seen, we have the Blackreef Shroud. This adds 1 to the toughness of the bearer, as well as a 4+ against mortal wounds. The latter is basically the effect on a relic shield, such as seen on the Indomitus Captain. Haven't seen this one being played and wouldn't recommend it. If the mortal wounds effect was an aura similar to the Dominus Aegis, then I think that it would be great to have. Furthermore, we also have 2 Watchmaster exclusive relics. The Osseous Key is an anti-vehicle aura ability. While an enemy vehicle unit is within 12 inches of the bearer, each time a model in that unit makes an attack, subtract 1 from the attack's hit roll. While an enemy vehicle unit is within 12 inches of the bearer, subtract 1 from the attack's characteristic of each model in that unit. I think the issue with this one is that it's locked to the Watchmaster, and that in the few competitive lists the Watchmaster has been showing up recently, he had other duties to perform. I'm coming to that in just a moment, but first let's have a look at the second exclusive relic, the Spear of the First Vigil. Basically, what this does is up the potency of the Watchmaster's default spear. While I have seen this relic being negatively commented on, there is actually one use case I can think of that I have seen being played. With the popularity of the relic Contemptor Dreadnoughts with the twin Volkites, a popular strategy is to run a Watchmaster alongside them for brilliant strategist and rerolls. Because the relic Contemptors already have a built-in 5+ invul save, there is no need for the Dominus Aegis, making the Watchmaster the ideal candidate. In this scenario, you can up the Watchmaster's ranged output by giving him the upgraded spear that can also fire special issue ammunition on top. I would say it's pretty niche, but if you can spend the CP, why not? Lastly, we also have a Librarian exclusive, Soul Fortress. I must admit that prior to making this video, I had completely forgotten that this was there. This one allows the bearer to ignore any and all modifiers to psychic tests, and it also increases the range of the bearer's psychic hood ability to 24 inches. Perhaps with more psychic armies like Grey Knights and Thousand Suns showing up, this might see play. All in all, if I had to name my personal top 5 relics, I would go for the Dominus Aegis, the Beacon and Chalice and the Tomb as my top 3, followed by the Vorken and the Bane Bolts as the other 2. While I personally like to toy around with the Artificial Bolt Cache relic as well, I have to admit that the synergy between the Eliminator Sergeant and the Bane Bolts is simply fantastic. Shout out to Shaul Wilson for bringing that one to my attention. Fortunately for the Deathwatch, and quite unfortunately for my CP, we have quite a strong selection of relics, and it's not uncommon to see 3 of them in the competitive Deathwatch lists. To wrap things up, over the course of the video, we have gone through the Deathwatch relics available in their 9th edition supplement. My personal favorites are the Dominus Aegis, which offers a 5+ invul bubble, the Beacon and Chalice, which allows the one-time teleportation of infantry or bikers, and the Tome of Ectoclades, another one-time usage, which allows wound rerolls for core units against a datasheet that you can pick. One thing I also like in particular is that some relics can be put on a sergeant through the sanction of the Black Vault stratagem. This can result in some hilarious combinations, like a Centurion Sergeant getting special issue ammunition, or an Eliminator Sergeant getting a potent Instigator bolt carbine. While some of the relics are a bit underwhelming or just too fluffy, I think that overall the Deathwatch has a strong enough selection of relics that easily results in the average competitive list maxing out on relic slots. While that's not necessarily uncommon for a Space Marine army, I think the Deathwatch really reinforces that point. All in all, it's not just the Xenos factions that should be worried about encountering the Deathwatch and their relics. So that's it for the guide to the relics of the Deathwatch in 9th edition. Which ones are your favorites and how many are you using in any given list? Have I missed anything important? Let me know in the comments. Finally, I would also like to mention that there is a SwissHammer Facebook page where I will be posting links to my videos as well as articles I find of interest. I do read a lot about the hobby, but not all of it will always end up as its own video. I look forward to seeing you there as well. I do also have a Patreon page. If you like my content, any additional support is greatly appreciated as it helps me invest into future videos. As always, thank you very much for watching, guys. Your continued support is greatly appreciated. I hope you have been enjoying this video. Give me a thumbs up if you did, and don't forget to subscribe if you haven't done so already. Thanks again and see you next time.